Hi everyone and welcome back to our queen rearing apiary. Firstly, apologies that there's been a bit of a delay between videos, but as you might have seen, the pickup has been back in for yet another repair, and this time a new clutch, but that's all sorted and we're back out into the apiaries. Hopefully just in the nick of time. We've got a couple of issues to deal with today, all tied in with queen rearing. The first one is we've caged some queen cells and the virgin queens have emerged, so we need to get those virgin queens into some of the nuke boxes, and we're going to try a new method today which I've not tried before, which is taking the virgin queen, dropping her into some sugar syrup and then just running her straight into the mating nuke. I've been told that it's a really reliable way of introducing a virgin queen quickly without having to cage her, so fingers crossed it works, and we're going to give it a go and show you on camera, and then we'll come back perhaps a week or so later, maybe a fortnight, and see whether she's mated and is laying, or whether the worst has happened and they've killed her. So we'll get the camera over to the nukes and have a look at how we're set up, ready to go for this little experiment. So this is our queen rearing colony. It was going to be just a starter colony, but it turned out to be a starter and finisher, which has been fine. It's worked really well. So we just need to clear some of these bees off the top. And obviously, if you're going to rear some queens, they need lots of resources, but you also need lots of bees. So I've got the cell bar frame marked up here. So let's just ease this one out. And this, if you can recall, is the grafting bar that we grafted all of the queen cells, all of the larvae in. Just put a load of bees up in the air, sorry for that. So we've got 6 virgin queens that have emerged and are in these roller cages now. So we'll just get some of these bees off and I'll show you one of these close up. So we've got our caged virgin queen here. Obviously the bees are really keen to find a way of releasing her, but we're going to take this caged queen now over to one of the nukes that we've made queenless, and we're going to try and introduce her using this syrup dunk method. So we had some feed on these and they took that down really well. Now these are going to be queenless, so what we're going to do is to just take a frame out. I was into this nuke yesterday and removed the queen, and we've introduced the queen to another colony that needed a queen. So I'm going to take out one of the frames and just lay it on the top, and then we're going to liberally dose the queen with some sugar syrup, and the object of the exercise really is to just get the bees to clean the syrup off the virgin queen, and then by the time they've done that she should be accepted, and I'm told that you get a pretty good success rate with it, and it just saves having to cage her and then wait for that caging to actually take place. Now we probably will have some queen cells, so if we have a look along the bottom here, they might have started making some queen cells. That's not really a queen cell, it's just a rudimentary queen cup, but they will start making some queen cells. So if we get this virgin in quickly, that should suppress the queen cells. So we've got our queen in the queen cage and we've got some syrup here. So what I'm going to do, and I have no experience in this, but I'm going to take the actual physical queen cell out, trap the queen in the roller, and then I'm going to put the syrup down into the roller, dribble the syrup across the frame as well, and then hopefully when she runs out she'll go onto that syrup, the bees will be cleaning it up and she'll be accepted. As I say, I've not done this before, but we're going to give it a go and see what happens. So let's ease the cell out. We need to make sure that we keep the queen inside, so we'll try lifting that up, and then I've got my finger over the end. So that's the queen cell. So you can see the Nico queen cup at the bottom, which we grafted into, and there's the emerged cell itself. So the next thing we need to do is to just get some syrup in and on this queen. So I'm just literally going to pour it through and into the queen, and hopefully she'll get some syrup on her, and then we can release her. So she's still in the cage, there's lots of syrup here, and she's now out. So there's the virgin queen. The bees are now on her, giving her a sniff, and I'm just going to pour some more syrup on her. Now that appears as if they're not attacking her. It looks like they're just cleaning her. So hopefully that's going to work. So we've introduced the queen onto the frame. Everything went fantastic for about 20 seconds. And then all of a sudden, some of the workers started to attack the queen. And then once they started to attack, it was almost like the pheromone signal had gone up and more bees came over to attack the queen. So I picked her up and put her back into the cage, and I've actually capped the end with some fondant. So what we're going to try next is to introduce her into this colony in the cage, but leaving it open with a cap of fondant. Now hopefully they will then accept her, because by the time they get through the fondant, the pheromones, which probably come from the other colony, will have dissipated, and they'll be more likely to accept her as their queen. As I say, it's the first time we've tried anything like this, and unfortunately the first time has ended up with a fail. So obviously something that I'm doing wrong. Maybe this colony hasn't been queenless for long enough, or maybe it is purely that the pheromones on the cage and this queen are such that they've turned and attacked her. So we'll pop this cage in. The others, I'm not going to take this risk. I'm going to put them into a queen cage, the yellow queen cages, and we'll introduce them in those yellow queen cages. So what we need to try to achieve is getting this queen into this box without everyone attacking her, poor thing. So we'll just see what they're up to, and then I think what we'll do is we'll just put it between two of the frames and kind of crush it into the side of the wax, so that she's got somewhere that she can find as an area that's protected, so that all the other bees aren't then attacking her, and she's got nowhere to go. So we don't want them trying to sting her through the actual cage itself. Okay. So we'll leave them in there, see how they get on, and then we'll come back in a few days and see whether or not she's emerged, and then we'll have another look through for her and see if she's mated. So I would take the veil off, but we've got a few bees that have followed us back to the truck. Lessons that we've learnt from that little exercise, I guess, are but it doesn't always work first time every time, and that's going to be down to what I've done. So I think we took the queen out yesterday, and we've tried to introduce the new queen today, so it's about 18 hours, somewhere around that order, since we took the queens out, which I thought would have probably been enough for the old queen's pheromones to have dissipated sufficiently that when we put the virgin in, that she would be accepted. It could be that the pheromones from the queen rearing colony are such that they're all over the cage, all over the queen, and that is an alien pheromone to the nuke, and so that could be a problem as well. But that's always going to be the case if we're introducing virgin queens straight from cages into mating nukes. So we've plugged up the end, as you've seen. I was in two minds as to whether to actually finish producing this video, edit it and post it to you, but I think it's important that when we're trying out these new things that it's good to see that, you know, it doesn't go right every single time, and you should always maybe take some precautions and see how things go. We're very fortunate in that we've got quite a lot of queens that we're rearing, and the occasional mishap like this isn't going to cost us. If you've only got 2 or 3 hives, then you probably can't afford to take this kind of gamble. So what we're going to do with the rest of them is we're just going to pop them into the yellow queen cages, and you will have seen those before, with a little bit of fondant, and we're going to take the tabs out, but just leave the queen in the cage on her own with no attendant workers from the original colony. And hopefully the bees will then go through the fondant, and by the time they get through, her pheromone will have mingled. The pheromones from the other colony, the original colony, will have subdued, and everything will be fine. So not a glowing success, but an example of how you can try things out in beekeeping, and if it doesn't work, then you can revert to something else. The last thing I would say is that when I took the queen off the frame and she was being attacked by bees, one of the workers had pinned hold, using its mandibles, had gripped hold of her wing really quite tightly, and it was really difficult to get that worker to release her. And it's possible that she could have damaged that particular virgin so that she can't fly off and mate. So we might run into another problem with that queen. She might get accepted, but she could then turn into, dare I say, a drone laying queen because she can't get out and mate. So I'm going to keep a close eye on that colony, have a look to see if we can find that queen and see whether her wings have actually been damaged, and if they have, unfortunately we're going to have to replace her. I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions and probably suggestions as to what we could have done that might have resolved this in a more favourable condition, but it is what it is, and I'm going to post it anyway. So be kind, and we'll catch up soon. Thanks for watching.